anti-communist treaty rebellion. Soviets surprised by the Polish attack. All Soviets retreat as quickly as possible, and Soviet codes have been broken. This is going to actually work in our favor. We've broken the Soviet code, and during the Polish-Soviet War, this was a major, major logistics loss for the Soviets. Just the fact that the Poles could break their codes that easy, and I actually believe the code had something to do with the Bible. I believe it was actually sort of a Bible code, disguised as Bible verses to get their codes out. Pretty ineffective and pretty easy to break. So we're going to group move forward here. We've got some interesting units here. The Voska Kolozhe. I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that. But we've got the Fourth Armia, and I definitely want to do some counterattacks against the Russians. So we've got the 47th Division here, and sure enough, yeah, we're going to break right through. Let's attack this area. We've managed to do quite a number on the enemy. And the Soviets were really quite surprised by the Polish stand here. They really managed to defend themselves quite well. So there's quite a lot of enemy armies here on our rails that are not very strong. So I definitely don't want them taking our rails. That's one of the reasons I'm attacking here. Another reason is we just outnumber them at this point. I'd love to get to the enemy HQs, but I think if we were able to get to Brovary, Niezhin, Konotop, these are our real objectives. Dobruj, Starodub, there's a lot of areas we still need to take. And as far as I can see, we might only be able to take those by moving through the Dnieper. The reason I'm saying that is if you guys look over here, there's actually a border, and I don't believe we can cross this border. So it may very well be the case that we have to move through the Dnieper to be able to get in to the eastern part. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and start trying that, start moving this way. Okay, we've actually found some more Polish units, Soviet units. We're not sure what to expect, but I am going to move this unit forward. Anybody that can join this fight is more than welcome to. Look at that. So we're beating them back quite effectively. And again, I'm just advancing to the east, slowly but surely. I'm not trying any blitzkrieg maneuvers. I want to be careful as I move forward. Ooh, look at this. A few more enemy units. So this initial attack seems very weak. I'm almost certain that the Soviets are going to be restructuring that army and sending a larger group towards us. Keep in mind that there are some Ukrainian and Polish, essentially, revolutionaries that are supporting the communists here. So they very well could be these groups we're seeing right now. Not very strong. Certainly not what I would expect from the Red Army. I would expect a lot more men. Of course, this war is just the inception, really, of the Red Army itself. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you, Bart. Oh, you don't have any slits. Feels bad, man. That's okay, man. Give it time. Give it time. So we're going to continue forward here. And there's a few actual air bases back here that I think are going to be quite important. We're going to need some air support to defeat the Soviets. The fact is, as many of you know, one of the biggest Soviet, strategies is, of course, the mass assault. And they are going to definitely be doing that. I'm actually surprised that right now they don't seem to have many men. I really believe that's going to change quite soon. Let's go ahead. We're going to move this guy forward. We'll move the artillery forward with him, although this is questionable. We've also got some engineer units here, as well as a regular infantry unit. Actually took that fortified position up there. It doesn't seem like much, but we just attacked an enemy HQ, so that's great. And I'd love to take Gorosin back. I don't think this has any victory points associated with it, but it's just a matter of showing the enemy that we can push them back and that they simply can't bully us here with their numbers. Yeah, the enemy's going to have to come with some reinforcements, because right now, we are completely crushing the Soviets. There we go. Korostin is ours. And what I'm trying to do is completely cut them off here. In fact, I think you guys can sort of see what's happening. I will send in this unit. And this is going to be the 1st DP Legion. Legionue. Love to bring some reinforcements here, but I think we might be out. What is the NATO symbol for this? I'm actually not sure. Interesting. I'm actually not familiar with that NATO symbol, and I am familiar with almost every NATO symbol. Move forward. Beautiful. Yep, two victory points here in Koroshten. So I'd like to hold on to it. I'm going to go ahead and send this unit here to defend. Getting the Soviets off the rails, I think, is very important. We can see almost clearly that they're right on top of our rail lines, and that's going to mess our supplies up for sure. Another thing that's interesting, if you see these yellow units, these are, I believe, are Ukrainian divisions. We do have Ukrainian support in this war, but the scary thing is that Western Ukraine supports us, Eastern Ukraine is working with the Soviets. And the interesting thing, this is 1920. So the war actually ended in 1922, despite Ukraine, or Eastern Ukraine, I should say, being a Soviet country, or a communist country, I should say. They were not allied with the Soviets at this point. Now, they were helping during this war, because, you know, sort of a common goal, but they were not officially allied with the Soviets, which is interesting. A lot of people seem to think that, you know, the Soviet influence is the only thing, you know, sort of promoting communism. That's not necessarily the case. Certainly, there was Soviet influence in the revolution itself, but they ran their own politics at least until 1922, and that's when everything changed. Yeah, we definitely don't need enemy units behind us, so I'm going to try and wipe these guys out. I don't want to attack there because we actually already had an attack set up, so that would not be the greatest idea in the world. Here we go. Advance. Put this artillery maybe right there. Okay, interesting. So finally we have an attack that's questionable. It's impossible to predict because we don't have nearly enough information about the enemy. So usually when that's the case, I want to bring in more units just to be absolutely sure. I think now we might have a little bit of a better idea of what to expect. Yeah, now we're actually getting success results, and I think it's because we're managing to scout these units pretty easily now. So the result will be excellent. That's exactly what we want to see. Let's take a look here. Hello, how are you doing, Paul Winter? Good to see you, and good to see you too, Vic. Morning all... you're in the East Coast, I see. Okay. Very cool. Whereabouts in the East Coast are you? So 2 years ago, I was in New York, which was very, very fun. Okay, here we go. Let's attack. So we're definitely going on the offensive, which is not necessarily something we want to do in this campaign. And you guys will see why soon. You guys will see why very soon, as a matter of fact. But the Soviets are certainly going to be sending support here. A lot of these units are actually, of course, just kind of the initial attack of the Soviets. And they're absolutely going to be sending more and more reinforcements as time goes on. Just want to make sure that I've moved everybody that I have to anyway. Unfortunately, some of these borders we're not going to be able to cross this turn. So we probably are going to have to wait for that. Definitely don't want them breaking through here, so put these units kind of on the front. We could even dig in with these guys, but I don't think that's necessary. However, we will do an attack here as well. And as you can see there, the cooperation lowered significantly. So obviously mixing two units of different countries is going to lower cooperation, partly due to, you know, different codes, different languages, of course, and sort of different military strategies. So it's not going to be the greatest in terms of cooperation there, but, you know, they're attacking from multiple angles. They should be all right. What is this? These Soviets look very strange. All right, let's move forward with our Southern Army. You can see I'm single moving because I'm just trying to sort of create a line initially. Then we can start attacking with mass attacks. Here we go. Instant kill. Just looks like a regular enemy infantry unit. And they're being forced back pretty severely. Interesting. Okay, we finally actually are facing some resistance here. So the 45 DS. And the chance of success there is excellent. I'm hoping the same is true for the rest of our units here. Look at that. Look at that push. Now we've got the rails. As you can see, we're working our way down. And this army, the 21st GOR, is doing an extremely good job here. Pretty sure we can actually trap part of the enemy army. And we haven't even ended the first turn. So the amount of damage we've done here has to be offset by some sort of enemy reinforcement. It just has to be. That being said, this war was a dramatic loss for the Soviets. They outnumbered the Polish in almost everything, but they still lost the war pretty dramatically. It's almost a sort of reflection of the Soviet-Finnish War. Of course, in the Soviet-Finnish War's case, the Soviets did technically win, but not without taking an unbelievable amount of losses. And in the Polish-Soviet War, they took an unbelievable amount of losses and lost. I believe the final casualty was like 100,000 on the Soviet side and 30 to 40,000 on the Polish side. And that's also counting their Ukrainian allies, which probably made up a few thousand of that casualty figure. Look at that, guys. Look at that. We're already almost to the next city here. We have to liberate the rest of Poland. And I'm also going to have this HQ follow his men. I want to stay on the rail yard there, and I want to stay close to our units. And it looks like we've also got some engineer units here we can move forward, as well as an artillery gun. All right, those guys are on another attack, so let's hope this guy is able to do his thing. I'll actually send him some engineers to assist. Success is fair. I'll take that. Again, putting the HQ over here so that it's right there on the rail line, and also feeding our troops. They certainly need it. Yeah, I'm going to have to plan an attack with our engineers here. Thank you for joining us. Welcome aboard. Okay, guys, here we go. Ending the turn. Wish us the best of luck. For Poland. You can definitely see some breaks in the enemy line, but you've got to be careful with the Soviets because, of course, with these human wave attacks, it's very easy for them to sort of break through your lines. Even if you kill, tens of thousands of them, they've got other armies ready to take the place of that army, and even other armies ready to flank your army while you push forward. That's where we have to be very, very careful facing the Soviets here. Okay. 60% of our turn remains. Let's see how we did. Ooh, boy, guys. If you look at the casualty count here, it's actually quite a low casualty count. Now, that could be because of the type of attack we're doing. We can actually increase aggressivity on the attack, but that means likely taking more casualties if things don't go our way. But just as an example here, so we attacked right here, and look at how many men we lost. I mean, that's quite a lot, and we managed to destroy quite a lot of Soviet units as well. We certainly won that battle, took out a bunch of light rifle squads, medium machine guns. I was hoping we'd take out that 152mm howitzer, but it seems they got away, and we took out a horse team. So a pretty good start. But again, these initial battles, nothing to write home about, really. Over here, the only thing to write home about is the fact that we had like minimal losses on a lot of these engagements, but so did the enemy. Now, for those of you that are new to the Operational Art of War 4 series, you might be wondering why I can't move that unit, and that's because our turn is not yet done. This is actually a part of our turn. We're now down to 60% of our turn remaining, so we can still do a few moves, but some of our units might be too tired to really do anything at this point. Okay, we definitely want to surround this guy, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be taking him prisoner. I'm not even going to use all of our units. If possible, I'd like to save some of the cohesion here for this unit. And yeah, once again, this is an example of an area where we just can't attack. We can attack eastwards, though. But as you can see, this guy is no way going to attack. Take a look here at the chat, my friends. Hello, how you doing, Mag Plus? Good evening from Australia. Good to see you, mate. It is indeed. Very good guess. It is indeed, Paul. So this is this is actually the Polish-Soviet War. And there's obviously a bit of contention whether this was a Soviet attack or whether this was a Polish attack, because both kind of accused the other, and both had an interest in having what is modern-day Belarus and Western Ukraine under their control. Yes, absolutely, Mag Plus. Mag Plus is saying quite the Polish blitzkrieg at the moment, and I have to agree. I wouldn't even call it so much a Polish blitz as I would just a mass attack that's pushing them back. We are very close to blitzing them, that being said, because if we're able to get our units through here, through Malin, oh, they're in serious trouble, especially if we get over here. I mean, just incredible, the possibilities that could occur. So I'm going to move forward here. And really, I'll hit the enemy wherever we can hit them. Even these small forces, they might not seem like a big deal right now, but I've told you before, this is exactly what the Soviets will do. You know, they'll let us attack these small units, they'll lose these armies, and then they'll come in with a massive doom stack of Soviet units ready for a human wave attack. So I want to keep the pressure on consistently. All right, here we go. Nice. Let's put it this way: I would not be want to be part of the Soviet army right now. It just wouldn't be a good idea. 1, 2, 3, and once again, there's quite a lot of units here. Pretty sure we can exploit that. We're going straight for the HQ, but before we do, I'll break through here. Again, we don't want them, you know, flanking us. That would be awful. And there we go. We've taken a city back. I also wouldn't recommend, guys, putting your HQ right next to an enemy unit here. But they're so weakened that I'm almost not really too concerned. Some of these units are not going to move. But what we will do is get on the border with them, just to stop the Soviets from breaking through at any point. I'm even going to send some artillery support here. All right, let's go to the south. No, there's not going to be anything there. We do still have some air support at Krakow. Quite a lot, actually. No. Okay, guys, we'll end the turn. Again, wish us the best of luck. Something just tells me that the Soviets are going to surprise us here with some massive reinforcements. But you're absolutely right. Right now, we're doing very, very well. 50% of our turn remains. This might be one of the longer turns, but look at this, guys. With some of these attacks, we wiped out 100% of the enemy defenders. Now, of course, this is just a division. It's not huge, but, you know, it's still pretty good. And over here, we had the same thing happen. Once again, just cutting them off and annihilating those units. I'm sure there's going to be a number of Soviet prisoners there. And there was really only one instance where we lost more men than the enemy. So we started attacking here, massive attack. And they definitely managed to hold us down pretty well, as a matter of fact. They hardly lost any men at all. So our job is to continue this attack. I was thinking even of bringing our Air Force over here to Ploshov, I believe is the way to pronounce it. He said Ploshov. And basically using this as our main air attack zone, where we can send bombers out, etc., and try and hit the enemy before we even engage them so that we can greatly lower their numbers. And look at this, we've already got a situation where we're going to decide whether or not to attack, and I guess we decided to attack, but what I want to do is take that central rail line right there, and then all of the units in front here are going to be getting no supplies whatsoever. So yeah, that blitz that somebody suggested, that could be coming, definitely, unless the Soviets do something quickly. No, I'm not going to be attacking here. So if you guys see that there's a big X through this unit, and that confuses some people to make them think that essentially this artillery will not provide support. The X just means it's only going to provide 50% of its support. than it otherwise would. And there's any number of reasons for that. It's already fired this turn, it's too far away, etc. So in this case, it's only going to provide 50%, but that should be able to help us break through this Soviet unit. Interesting. Paul is saying, I saw Koszalin, which was an important railway junction for both Polish and Bolshevik forces. Yes, absolutely. That's a great question, Pixel. What type of planes have you got? Almost certainly World War I era planes. Let's actually take a look here. So we click the plane, and it says the 17th Via Vidovska. Somebody's going to have to look that up. There's also the Lotnikto. So if you guys want to go ahead and look that up, I'm going to leave it up just for a few seconds. You can probably find it in Wikipedia. If you do find it in Wikipedia, link us, because I'd love to take a look. But again, I'm guessing World War I era planes. This is 1922, so we're not that far from the end of World War I. Okay. And again, this particular war really put Trotsky in disfavor with Lenin. Before that, Lenin had essentially been, very, very supportive of Trotsky. But he miserably failed in this particular war. You bet I'm sending in some aircraft here. I'm thinking, should I group move over here? And I think I'm going to. But now we risk the enemy actually cutting us off. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. We'll end the turn. It should be their turn pretty soon. I'm just looking here in the north to see if there are any other ways in. There aren't. We can't even move through Latvia or Lithuania. That would be considered a declaration of war. And right now we want them on our side. One of our units may have gone too far out, the 21st Army here. And what we'll do here, guys, is end the turn. Once again, 40% of our turn remaining. This is one of the longest actual campaigns I've done in terms of the turns. Each campaign is different. Each mission that you play in this game is going to be different in terms of its length. But generally, turns are over within like 2 or 3 moves. This is taking a lot longer than that. See there, those are still excellent attacks. We can get a more specific combat chart here, guys. And this is each round. So there's round 1, round 2, round 3, etc. This is really what's important. So you can actually see how many rounds the attack was delayed. And that's why you get those little yellow pips on the upper right side of the battle screen. That really lets you know essentially how long the battle's going to take in your turn. So in other words, you might be able to attack twice in one turn, but it's generally not likely. You really do want to go for those attacks, though, that are going to cost you the least time possible. Yeah, I think we're going to have to end the turn before we're actually able to do anything. So let's actually attack them with some artillery here. And we can actually send in some units too. Success is very poor, but you know what? I have faith. Occasionally the operational art of warfare system is wrong with its odds. Let's just hope this is the case. Move back, and we're getting to their HQ, friends. Wow, look at that. I mean, if their headquarters are retreating, it's not looking good for them. Let's get rid of this unit. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're even bringing in the engineers on this attack, and the chance of winning is still very poor. So I'm going to move this unit forward, as well as the HQ. I rarely attack with the HQ, but if it's going to tip over, the battle to a potential victory, then I will attack with the HQ. Can I bring in some bombers? Come on. I suppose not. So as you can see here, guys, I'm slowly adding units to this attack just to ensure that it works. And it still might fail, but we really want to try just about everything we can to offset the Soviets. %. What did I tell you guys? Unbelievable. So here we go. Attack 16. Again, they're pretty well dug in there. They're not retreating on every single one of our attacks. It's just their sort of isolated units that get completely obliterated. But for instance here, I mean, look how poorly we did. Our men advanced, cavalry squads against machine guns, of course, mounted rifle squads, and the enemy managed to do some serious damage while losing absolutely no machine guns whatsoever. So, you know, we basically just ran against a machine gun line there, got mowed down, and retreated. That's what just happened in that particular battle. Nice. Congratulations. Good job, Carnium. Patience, Bart. You'll have it soon. Yeah, we did put the minimum at 50, guys. I know, I used to love to do like 5 at a time, but no, we definitely put the minimum at 50 at this point. Alright, we still have a few attacks, I believe. We just might not get to use the units we wanted. And again, the cooperation isn't great. We're at 0.83 right now. And that's going to go down to 0.67, which is bad. But the chance of success here is excellent, and that's primarily because we're facing a pretty battered enemy unit. So I think we'll be able to crush them. Trotsky is very annoyed right now. That is quite clear. Things are not going as planned. And it's all thanks to us. So we're going to go ahead. Again, chance of success here is very poor, but occasionally you do have to take these risks. All right, in the turn. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful, my friends. So we have managed to push the enemy back with almost every attack we've done. Even when we've lost more men, the enemy has been pushed back and dislodged. And, you know, despite the fact that I was under the impression that the Polish army was, like, minuscule, it's actually got a lot of different divisions in it. It's a really large amount. So there are groups of it that are quite large. And look at that. That's actually, this is amazing, guys. The cavalry squads, so remember, this is 1922, and we still got cavalry saber squads. Essentially hussars. We've still got hussars in 1922. Of course, more modernized hussars, but, you know, they serve essentially the same purpose. So there we go. So 10 battles happened. Was that 10 or 18? We'll have to go back and look. And yeah, there's not going to be much we can do. This is the last part of our turn. What we could do is bombard these guys. I don't think it's going to do much. We're almost certainly going to have to wait until the next turn. What I will do is put that HQ on the rail line. And I'm going to move this HQ up just a little bit. Dijadi. So this is Romer's HQ, and this is Susbert's HQ. I believe we are getting, and maybe somebody can confirm this, looks like we're getting some German assistance, which would make sense because the Germans supported the whites during the Russian Civil War. So that would make sense. Soviet turn, boys and girls. Let's see what they do. We've done extremely well on that turn 1. I don't get the feeling the Soviets are going to let us go that easy, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so they really didn't do anything during their turn. As you can see here, Soviet codes have been broken. April 28th, 1920, Konarmia destroys Makhno guerrilla force. And that is Alexander Makhno. My goodness. So those are actually the Ukrainian anarchists here that I believe are working with the Soviets, or perhaps they're working with us. They did switch sides. against the Soviets in time, or actually more appropriately, the Soviets switched sides against them. So I believe we just destroyed one of their regiments. We'll have to wait and see. But the attack must continue, and here there are definitely more units massing up. Look at that. So we're going to go ahead and select this fellow, this guy, and we will bring in some reinforcements for sure. This is going to be a big battle. Look at this, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a stack of 2, and artillery. They are definitely boosting and improving their defenses. Still impossible to predict the success of that attack. And even though adding just one of these units probably isn't going to make a big difference, I'm still going to send them in, and now actually the success of the attack looks excellent. Get off my tracks. There we go. So our attacks are probably going to be happening at different times, but we're certainly getting there on the east side to sort of assist here with this attack. Let's also get rid of that HQ and retake that town. Yet another battle we can set up here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And chance of success is excellent. So down here in the south, there's no way I can pronounce that. Let's say east of Romania. I think we're going to win this battle, and destroying all of these units would be basically destroying one of the Soviet armies that's attacking us. But look at this, guys. I told you the Soviets were coming with reinforcements, and just off in the distance, our men are starting to see, as you can see there, they're starting to see some brand new divisions appearing on the horizon. And I think this is going to be the Soviet invasion force. Now, of course, they're going to claim essentially a casus belli because they want to liberate the worker. But what the Soviets really wanted during this war was a corridor to Germany. As many of you know, there was, of course, the Spartacist uprising a little bit later as well in Germany, essentially a communist uprising. And the Soviets believed, correctly probably, that if they took Poland, they would have a direct corridor to assist the German revolution. In our case, we're just trying to essentially retake ancestral lands and stop the communist influence. But I think really the Polish goal here was to take modern-day Belarusia and what we would consider Western Ukraine. Not exactly 50% of the country, but something like 20 or 30% of the country. And they succeeded. The Polish did win this war. This is actually when Lenin decided that international revolution was probably not very possible, and maybe even what made Stalin realize that, sort of keeping a more conservative approach to revolution, basically communism just for the USSR, was the way to go, because these wars were way too costly. And all too often, Finland's another example, once again, the Soviets just didn't manage to do very well. There we go. I'm actually going to try to flank here, guys. So now that somebody mentioned Blitzkrieg, I am going to try and do a blitz. 1, 2, 1, 2. Likelihood of success is very poor. It's not going to stop me, though. Okay, we got a very large enemy group here. It doesn't seem large, but this is quite a huge stack. And again, I think our biggest problem here is coordination, sort of poor leadership. Our soldiers are very brave. We've got quite a lot of them, but the leadership is just not great. Not ideal, let's say. There we go. We force back another enemy HQ. Don't think that the enemy leadership is much better. This is really culminating at the end of the Russian Civil War. So even, I would guess at least, that even the Soviet command had a lot of issues. Still kind of starting to get used to one another. So I will plan an attack here. We are right in the swamps, guys. This is a terrifying place to get shot, because even if you survive the gunshot wound, infection is sure to set in. I'm going to send some support here, because of course fighting in this swamp area is tough. This is pure hell on earth. And I think this is our only way in to Belarusia. Yeah, you bet we're going to send that infantry in if we can. In this case, I don't think we can, though. Interesting. Pixel says that Italian biplane is an interesting looking one. So interesting, used by the Soviets and the Polish in this conflict. And I wonder if the Italians, perhaps with the Polish, may have given them that plane, whereas with the Soviets, maybe they sold it to them. That would be my guess. Let's see here. Paul is saying, I think that the Polish Air Force could still have the Fokker D-7 fighters and the Albatros D-3s, which were captured by the German Reich at the end of the 1918 Wielkopolska uprising. Very possible. Hey, Lanzer, good to see you, man. Long time no see. Yeah, both were very good German late World War I planes, Paul is saying. Yeah, and I would guess that in 1922, those would be effective, pretty effective. The difference in air power during 1922 was much less than, let's say, 1939. You know, it's just very different, where the Soviets actually had a good air force and the Poles had nothing, really. Let's see. That being said, the Polish are probably the best fighter pilots in the world, and I would just look at the Battle of Britain. The best squadron in that war, in that battle, was the Polish squadron. By the way, guys, I just noticed we have some Polish tanks here, but currently they are not movable. They hopefully will be movable next turn. It's just good to see that we have quite a lot of support. Over here we've got Warsaw, of course. We do not want to lose Warsaw, as you could probably imagine. That would be a definite loss. But you can see just how far east we are of Warsaw. You know, this is quite a ways off. It's quite a stretch. Let's put it that way. Again, moving through these swamps is not easy. I'm just going to go ahead and keep on blitzing here. Try and cut the enemy off anywhere I can. Look at this, my friends. Yeah, we're definitely getting behind them, and if we can get behind the railroad at Malin, we are actually going to put this city right here, Kijów, under severe strain. That's definitely my goal, is to take that city. Look at the value here, guys. 90 victory points, and Brovary, 90 victory points. That's huge. Just huge. Yeah, I think we have big enough forces here that we can wipe them out. And once again, another Soviet HQ here. Sobolev. I think Sobolev was purged by Stalin, if I'm not mistaken. Give it time, give it time. Alright. Wish us luck. We want that rail junction, guys. I think they're going to hold, though. That rail junction is extremely important, as mentioned earlier. Some really great retreats here. And especially if we can make these HQs obsolete, we are going to greatly improve our chances of victory. Okay, guys, 50% of our turn remaining. You can see the turn is going a little bit faster now, so it does change. I'm not sure what factors depend on that. I think one of the most complicated things in the Operational Art of War 4 that even a lot of the pros can't understand is the time differential. But like I said, it depends on what campaign you're playing, etc., etc. All sorts of different things sort of determine that. What is the turn limit on this scenario? I honestly don't know, Pixel. Good question. That is a good question. I believe if we go to scenario information, we'll be able to find that out. But I could be wrong. Okay, let's take a look here. 50 turns. In other words, the chances of us getting through this during this stream, pretty small, but it goes to show you, just the massive difference in scenarios. Some scenarios are 2 turns, 3 turns, whatever. Now, if you're looking over here, guys, each turn represents half a week, and the map scale is 5 kilometers per hex. We are truly fighting on a large map. This is a very large battle, or war, I should say, and appropriately so. I like it. So I think for sure the enemy is going to have some reinforcements. There's no way it was going to be that easy. If this was a 10-turn campaign, I would have been like, oh yeah, this is going to be really simple. No. I think what we're facing right now, and I could be mistaken, but I don't actually think we're facing the Soviet army. I think we're facing the Eastern Polish, which are kind of essentially allied with the Soviets, a lot of revolutionary groups, and maybe with some army support, but I think the main Red Army has yet to come. That's at least what I'm thinking here. I could be wrong. But I think the main force has yet to come. I don't think we faced it yet because it's been way too easy. And let's face it, Russia is a much bigger country. They certainly should have a lot more men than we do. That being said, this is, very close to the end of the Russian Civil War, so perhaps getting men is not as easy as we think. All right, this group is completely surrounded in this town here. But it looks like some of our units are refusing to attack. Come on. There we go. Okay, success is excellent. So we should be able to completely take that area. I also want to take this area. But it doesn't look like our folks want to attack right now. So one of our cities is actually under threat here. I want them to understand that approaching our cities is going to mean certain death for them. And that will be the city of Berdyshoy. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Berdyshov? I think it's maybe Berdyshev. Chances here are very poor. We'll bring in some engineers. And again, engineers are not supposed to make a big difference in attack unless you're attacking across a river or something like this. But in this case, we need everything we can get. Wow, they're still continuing to fight here. Okay, so there was actually some air interdiction right there, if you guys saw it. Whenever you move your unit and you see a little, explosion pop up like that, that's either air or artillery interdiction by the enemy. In other words, they spotted your guys moving, they were able to fire and potentially get some hits. Sometimes they won't get any hits, but all too often they get some hits. So let's also wipe this guy out. I hate the fact that the enemy keeps going onto our rails. It's really frustrating. But whoever controls the rails controls this battle. Or this war, I should say. 1, 2. So I can see now that we're selecting the Polish units only, that the cooperation has nothing to do with our Ukrainian allies. This is pure bad leadership. That's it. There's no other way to explain that loss of cooperation when you're using the same army. So just very bad leadership on the Polish side. Maybe still with that World War I mentality. They haven't learned their mistakes. Looks like we can still send this group out, so let's do just that. And actually we'll do a group move here from Rovne. It's actually Rovnie. Ooh, interesting. I think I know what this is now. I think this is an armored train. That would actually make sense for the time period. So armored trains were very popular during this time period, having just been used in the Russian Civil War. So look at this, guys. Yeah, this is almost certainly an armored train. We're going to start moving them eastwards. I can't wait to get this guy into combat. Let's go. What is this? Yeah, guerrilla units. So these are Ukrainian guerrilla units. This could actually be Makhno's army down here to the south. Again, I'm still wondering who Makhno is fighting for. The Reds or the Polish at this time. Or Actually, he could also be fighting for neither. I know that the Reds eventually outlawed him, and he actually ran away to Ukraine, then to Poland, then to Spain, then to France, just to get away. And I believe he died in Paris. Yeah, there's not much more we can do there. I was thinking of maybe bringing our HQs a little bit closer and putting them in the city, as a matter of fact. But besides that, yeah, the movement here has pretty much ended. Got a bunch of attacks going, and at this point we just want to see how they proceed. Ooh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We may have just caught a Polish Soviet or Polish communist engineer group here. Quite a large group overall. And look at that. Yeah, we just wiped out that group. And this guy, I think, is going to be destroyed. And there's also a rail junction here, which is very important. All right, ending the turn. Wish our boys luck. Nice. That rail line is back under our control. Again, just one unit on the rail line can mess your supplies up. That's all it takes. I think we've just liberated a city. Wow. I am very excited about this attack, guys. But they're still holding the junction. Wait, no, I think we just took the junction. I think we did. I might actually go ahead and dig in here by the junction. That's how psyched I am about that attack. So let's take a look here at some of them. Did a pretty good job against them. Once again, the casualties in this war, of course, overall, they're massive. But the actual battles seem to be more like skirmishes than actual battles. This being the exception here. As we can see, we did a number on the Soviets here in our recent battle. We didn't manage to destroy any of their armored trains, and I wouldn't expect us to. Those are pretty tough targets. And on the attack, we also lost some rifle squads, some light rifle squads, and some mounted rifle squads. But overall, we absolutely came out on top in that battle and took some territory. So 17 battles happened just this turn. You could see the extent of this conflict. You also, if you can, guys, just a little tip in the game, you want to try to attack from different directions if you can. So, like, try and, have an attack going from here as well. You want to have concentric attacks. You don't want to have an attack just all coming from one side. If you spread it out, your chances of victory are always going to be slightly increased. Because obviously, if you're getting attacked from multiple locations as opposed to just one, it's a lot harder to defend against. Vinica is under our control, and we will plan an attack against this group of engineers. Now, I told you guys the X thing when it comes to artillery, you can still attack with 50%. That, unfortunately, does not apply to infantry units. So, if the infantry unit has an X over it, you're not going to be able to use it to attack this turn. That being said, our chances are still excellent. I just thought I'd mention that. Actually going to leave that guy there this turn. And let's hit the HQ. They've also got some security divisions back here. Planned combats are looking very much in our favor. Zimirch. Okay, this area has a lot of enemies in it. Try to bring in some more reinforcements. But I am committing to this attack. I'm stubborn. I'm going to commit to this attack no matter what. Looks like fighting in the swamps has died down this turn. I think fighting that savage has to die down for both sides. And I'm also imagining that the attrition damage in these swamps would be horrific. You could just imagine the sweltering heat, the mosquitoes. It's not a good place to be. And of course, these are not swamps like in Florida. These are Russian swamps. but they're still pretty bad. They're not places that you can really survive for a long period of time. Really not made for humans to live in. Okay, let's end. I'm trying to exploit every single attack I can get, guys. Because I know that, especially if this is going to be 50 turns, the Red Army will want some revenge. Nice. We just liberated another city here. 30% of our turn remaining, and I will take a look here, guys, at the chat. All right, we already saw this. This was great. How about this one? Not bad. Look at that, guys. We took out 28 light rifle squads and 28 28 medium machine guns. That is beautiful, especially when we're talking about, essentially trench warfare. This was not always trench warfare. In fact, in this war, there was a lot of urban warfare. I highly recommend you guys take a look at the Battle of the Battle of Warsaw during this war. Some amazing, amazing combat. So in this case, though, it's definitely trench warfare. We're doing a great job. Once again, cavalry squads, lancers. We've still got lancers and, of course, essentially hussars in our army. Not the most advanced army, let's put it that way. Yes, absolutely. So Pixel is saying the chances of Soviet reinforcements is likely pretty high. It definitely is. It definitely is. I think it's actually, it's not only high, it's certain. I'm pretty sure that in this war, initially, the initial Soviet force sort of tried to deal with the problem, and then Trotsky came in with essentially what we would classify as the entire Soviet army, or a very large part of it. And look at this. Just to prove your point, look at this. Look at this, near Smolensk. All of the Soviet troops starting to amass here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 HQs. So many units could come with 4 HQs, but as you can see here, the border is still closed off. So if I'm guessing correctly, at a certain point in this scenario, that border is going to open up, and we're also going to have to deal with the Soviets up here. For now, though, we get to just deal with them in this area, and we seem to be doing a pretty good job at forcing them back. The Polish army is doing a great job, actually. Okay, ending the turn. Again, not much more we can do there. We've done all our moves. We've done all our attacks. Our men are exhausted, and it is the Soviet turn. It looks like all they're doing right now is sort of replacing men. But maybe that's about to change. Ooh, air attacks. Oh no, the Red Menace is approaching. Look at that. Look at that. What did I tell you guys? I knew this was going to happen. This is not looking good, guys. I knew this was going to happen. No, no. They're everywhere. So the main attack might not begin for quite a while, but you can see they have more men than it looked like they had, put it that way. Moilev. By the way, if we have any Polish speakers in the actual chat, feel free to correct my pronunciations here. I know Polish is a very complicated language. If I'm not mistaken, it's the most complicated European language to learn. Maybe Finnish. Maybe Finnish, actually. Oh, wow. They're returning attacks in the swamps, guys. Let's hope that our guys were able to hold there against those attacks. Because I really want to hold our position in the swamps. That's basically our funnel into Belarus. I can actually hear the enemy armored trains, so we know that they've got them. Okay, let's see how they did. The only place I see a really significant attack, essentially what they did here, guys, if you look, they're softening us up. These were all bombardments, And I'm just going to click them because I want to see what they were using to bombard us. And it looks like it's entirely artillery. I don't think that this was actually air superiority at all. I think this was entirely artillery, and it was. They've got 152 millimeter howitzers, 122 millimeter howitzers, 76 millimeter guns. The funny thing is a lot of these guns are probably German guns that were given to the Whites during the war that the Reds retook. And now they've got a heck of an arsenal here, and they're able to really bombard us. The only attack they actually did here was in the swamps. And as you can see here, we do have some Polish guerrilla units defending. So this was our losses, and the enemy losses are here. They did win this fight, but again, not a lot of losses on either side. Okay. Let's see if we get a news update. We might not. Not every single turn is going to give you a news update, guys, but it's always good to get one to sort of know what's happened. Some cities get completely leveled during an attack, so you can imagine that the civilian population is heavily affected. In this case, look at this. We're only going in with 3 regiments, essentially, and I think we're going to be able to take out this entire group, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the losses are going to be heavy, but victory is almost certain. We're finally getting to the enemy security divisions, and I'm assuming these are Cheka divisions. The Cheka was the precursor to the NKVD, and they are brutal. I'm sure if they take us prisoner, things are not going to end well. Our men better hope that they win that fight. And you bet I'm bringing everybody I can to liberate that city. In this case, I think liberation might be an appropriate term, because this is technically a Polish city here. Or was, 400 years ago. Here we go. One, two, three, four. Again, we maybe used too many men on that attack. Let me actually rethink that. So, I'm not sure I necessarily want to use all those men on the attack. The reason being, if we don't attack here, we could use them in other attacks, which is where they might be a little more useful. And these guys seem to be doing pretty well just on their own. So there we go. Excellent. It's still excellent. It's still excellent. Yeah, can just attack with that one unit. The Poland 1 Divizii. So the 1st Polish division. Wow, we already wiped out the HQ. Look at this, guys. Oh, now this is a perfect situation. That unit is absolutely going to become our prisoners. Ooh, no way. You know what? We're going to try. You only get one chance. Isn't that how the saying goes? And actually, adding these guys, the Polish 5th Army, to the attack seems to have just increases our probability of success to excellent. Considering there's an enemy headquarters here and a bunch of enemy units, I think this is going to work out great for us. Now, how about the swamps? Aha! We've trapped them, guys. We've got the enemy trapped in these swamps. Although it's a pretty nice stack, so I'm just going to send in 2 units. Again, I think that's all we really need. And we will have officially wiped the enemy out of the swamps, although interestingly enough, I'm not seeing a movement option to move across the Dnieper River. Maybe we need to bring our engineers, and maybe our engineers can move across, but I just don't see that option whatsoever. Yeah, I don't want to dig in. Yeah, that might just not be a possibility, in which case we'll send the army, we'll split it, send half to the south and half to the north. So we do know that eventually the enemy is going to try and break through this border. Got a bunch of border guard units here, by the way, but from what I've seen in this game with border guard units, they're not very good, just in general. I think the exception might be the South Korean border guard units in the South Korean campaign. There we go, another enemy attack. Again, we'll get that HQ a bit closer. So yeah, these are the Ukrainian guerrillas actually working for us, which is pretty cool. And I think we'll start moving them forward, putting them to some use. If they get wiped out, so be it. You know, at the very least, they can attempt to sort of affect the enemy here. But to be honest with you, guerrilla units, they're not the best. And unless we have quite a lot of them, I don't think we're going to be able to get a good attack here. But, surprisingly, the chance of success here looks like it's excellent. And this is definitely a Polish Soviet unit, the Krash Kozak. I think so, because the Kozak could suggest a Cossack unit. But as far as I can see, this is written in Polish. So again, there were Polish supporters here, but you can't really call this a civil war. I guess you could. It's just not known as one. Look at that. Just look at that. And now Polotsk is under our control. And we've just wiped out another enemy HQ. So more Soviets that we get to question. Oh, that's right. We've got this area here. Okay. So it looks like our units right here are stuck. And my concern is that they're going to take Berdyshov. I really don't want that to happen. But they could easily just kind of say, okay, and just move into Berdyshov here. So I'm going to put the HQ right there. I know it's just an HQ unit, but believe me, it's certainly better than nothing. And it looks like we can also send these guys in. So that's the Front Centralny. Another HQ division, actually. By the way, guys, this thing you see with the flags, this is not something that you need to do in the game. I personally just like it. I visually enjoy it. You can, of course, just have nothing up here when you're taking this territory. But for me, it's a good visual representation of kind of what you hold, what you're not aware of, and what the enemy holds. I think the only thing I would change is maybe instead of having Soviet flags here in the area neither of us hold, we just have like a neutral white flag. You know, because it looks like the Soviets have been there when they haven't. Hello, Jose. Todo bien, amigo? How are you doing, Berold? Camouflage caper. Republican Spain bought pre-war equipment off of Russia in 1933 or later. Yeah, absolutely. Not just Republican Spain, but Franco's Spain also purchased. Purchased planes from the Germans and the Italians, and were actually given planes by the Germans and the Italians. You have almost reached human. Indeed. That's going to end as soon as the Soviet reinforcements arrive, Pixel. Trust me. We're very confident now because, you know, we're doing very well. But this is an early part of the war. We have no idea what to expect yet. You know, this war was in many ways a war for Polish survival. As are many wars in Poland, unfortunately for them, but it was absolutely a war for Polish survival. You know, to the extent that there were even priests, you know, chastising people in their congregation that were not joining the Polish army to defend against what they considered the dangers of communism. Over here, we've got some excellent cities, just so many victory points at the moment, but I think that's all we can do this turn. Yeah, pretty much. So, end the turn. Liberate. Wow, they went right into the swamps. They went right into the swamps to escape us. too bad these are, you know, cold swamps and not, like, tropical swamps. Could have some alligators eat them up, but that's just not going to happen. They don't exist here. I'm actually trying to think of what the most dangerous creature would be in a Russian swamp. I would assume, you guys can guess down below, I would assume something like a bear. You know, I'm guessing there would be bears out there. Some sort of predator of that nature. There we go. We have liberated Kozatin. Wonderful, guys. And we still have 80% of our turn remaining. Wow. Now, this was considered a weak attack on our end, which means that we went into this combat knowing that if we were going to take any losses whatsoever, we would immediately retreat, and yet we managed to almost completely destroy this enemy army. On our side, only lost 4 rifle squads. Very agreeable losses. Acceptable losses, they would call it at this time period. And again, a lot of Polish guerrilla units, guys. This was our Polish guerrilla attack. And as you can see, we lost a lot of Polish guerrillas. Interestingly enough, some of our Polish guerrilla groups here are cavalry squads. But we beat the Russians here. We actually beat them. Even destroying medium machine guns, overrunning them, destroying some mounted rifle squads. Really well done. So we want to continue that, and clearly those guerrillas are helpful. But unfortunately, as we can see here, there's no way we can get across the Dnieper. That's just not a possibility. So what are we going to do? We're going to plan an attack and try and kill any Soviets hiding out in this swamp, or any Polish traitors doing the same. Chance of success is already excellent. And I will move this artillery piece north. Well, how are we going to get out of here? These swamps are treacherous. Okay, we've got this guy completely surrounded. As you can see, a lot of our guys are crossed out, and that's because they've already attacked this turn. And even the guys we're using right now, if you see that red in the upper right corner, that essentially means that the unit really needs some resupplies. They're low on supplies, they're low on probably manpower. They might have some manpower, but their morale might be completely shot. And that would make sense, considering all of the battles we've had. So we probably need to rest just a little bit with those guys. Nice little concentric attack here, as you can see, from 3 directions. Let's see if we can't get something similar going. Now, if you guys don't want to do the planning that I'm doing here, I like to plan every single combat I do. But, like, just as a simplified way of doing it for people that are new to the game, you just go ahead and, like, take a unit, right-click on the enemy. Let me find a unit to do that with. I don't want to mess that attack up. But for instance, I can right-click here, and I can just go ahead and say single group attack, and just say ignore losses. We're going to try that right now. So you can see here that all of these units are now attacking. Any unit that can attack, essentially, around this hex will. So let's see what happens. I think it's going to go very poorly for us here, actually. But taking out the security division is important. Once again, here, very limited support. As you can see, yeah, very limited support in this attack. Let's move up the engineers. And we'll continue to move forward with the guerrilla units. They actually did very well, but no, they're stopped. That's all the attacks they can do this turn. We'll have to wait till next turn until they have the courage to keep on charging towards the Soviets here. No, the security division absolutely held. Man, that's not going to look good on the casualties whatsoever. %30 of our turn remains, and we absolutely took that unit out completely. 100% wiped out, just as expected. It's going to be a lot of prisoners there, guys. Look at that. 87 fast horse teams, 46 medium machine guns, 29 mounted rifle squads, and 23 cavalry squads. This is a just unbelievable loss for the Soviets. I'm not sure how many tens of thousands of men this would be, but maybe even hundreds of thousands. This would be a lot of men. This is an entire army. And I'm sure Trotsky would be hearing from Lenin after that. That is just a miserable, miserable failure on the part of the Soviets. I don't want to jinx myself, though. I'm being a bit too confident here. And it's not always going to be the case. The Soviets are going to get reinforcements, and they're going to get revenge. But I think we can still win. First things first, let's attack that HQ if we can. In fact, there are 2 engineer units there and 2 HQ units, or 1 HQ unit. And I think just about all of our units have done what they can this turn. Yeah, there's not much we can do. Ooh, thank you. So, Paul Winter is saying the Polish wing fighters, PZL P7 and PZL P11A, with a characteristic Polish wing or Pulaski wing, kind of gull wing, were the most modern and innovative fighters in the world in the very early 30s. So this is interesting. What basically Paul is saying here is that, in fact, the Polish Air Force at this point was probably one of the best air forces in the world. Unfortunately, the gull wing turned out, especially in the case of fighter, to be dead end due to the speed restrictions. And at the beginning of World War II, they were already too slow and outgunned by the German Messerschmitt Bf-109. Very interesting there. So essentially now we're actually probably more advanced than the enemy in terms of our air power. In World War II, of course, that is completely reversed. Completely reversed. Pixel says a giant croc named Alexei. Indeed, if we had tropical rainforest in Russia, that would be the issue we'd be dealing with. Wow, that's amazing. You're right, Camouflage Caper. Thank you, and we should definitely discuss that. Wow, that's incredible. I can't believe I didn't see that. So today does mark the anniversary of D-Day. Operation Overlord. I think it's known by folks in the UK more as Operation Overlord. Where in the US I've heard a lot more people refer to it as D-Day. The invasion of Normandy or the invasion of France. Amphibious landing on France. Very amazing. So yeah, guys, a moment of silence for sure for those fallen during that incredible battle. And we're going to jump right back in here and potentially, before the end of this stream, see the really main portion of the Soviet army approaching. As you can see, Dobruj he's got a few units in front of it. It's also got some air units. So the Polish air wing is right here, as you can see. Ending the turn, and I believe, the Soviet air wing. I believe it's going to be the Soviet turn. So we're hitting that HQ. That was really the last attack we could do. And sure enough, we got it to retreat yet again. We've actually captured a few of the enemy HQs already. So I can only imagine the information our men are grabbing from the enemy generals. As you can see here, we were the ones that lost. So the enemy defended extremely well. They've got a bunch of howitzers. They've got a lot of machine guns. We attacked thinking we were going to get a victory, and we just got plastered here. Just utterly plastered. Nearly losing a light armored car, which, no, actually we did lose a light armored car. That is really bad. I mean, a light armored car in this particular war is extremely valuable. Essentially has the value of a tank here. Here we go. The Soviets are going to do their move. Look at that stack, man. Look at that stack, guys. There's like 20 units in that stack. All right, they just fought back our guerrillas here. I think they actually just captured one of our HQ units. It was a secondary HQ, but, still important. It's still going to look really bad on us. I don't know why they're retreating all the way back. That's a little strange, unless they're going to reinforce. Yeah, look at this. Unless they're just transitioning their troops from the center all the way to the north. But I don't see why they would do that, because most of our attacks have come from the south and have beaten them. Unless maybe their goal is, all right, they're beating us in the south, so let's just, go ahead and rotate to the north and attack from there once the borders open up. That could be the case, because that certainly seems like what they're doing right now. Look at this. What did I tell you? Those reinforcements have arrived. And this is just the first wave, believe me. This is nothing compared to what they've got in store for us. Just the fact that they can take guys away from the front should be a reminder to you guys at how many men they have here. They can freely move around, no issues whatsoever. Leave a weak front, go to a strong front, or vice versa at their leisure. And as you can see, their rail lines are also very well developed here. Very well developed. That was actually one of the starting causes of World War I. And this is a little more complex. I actually got this off the History Channel, The Great War. Something about World War I partially being the fact that the Germans knew they had to eventually attack Russia because the Russians were just beginning to finalize their rail infrastructure. They were really just beginning to get that set up. And what that would mean is that Russian troops would be able to be at the front a lot faster. Supplies would be able to be moved a lot faster. By the time the Bolsheviks took over, of course, this rail system was essentially finished. And they used it, whenever they could, especially with the attack on Poland and the attacks on Ukraine. This was very, very useful. Look at that. They just got a flank attack and succeeded at making our units retreat. So don't feel so calm and safe here, my friends. That's just a lesson for the operational art of war in general. Don't think that just because you're doing extremely well the first few turns that you're going to win the campaign. Never become complacent in this game. Man, a lot of enemy artillery. So they're going to use that to soften us up before they do any attacks, but this artillery seemed to be so strong our men actually retreated, which is pretty rare. And the reason I know that that's not an infantry attack is if it was, the enemy would occupy the city. In this case, they just left, and look at that. Those bombardments are heavy, man. You might not think that 8% is a huge loss, and in an infantry fight, you could probably argue that, but in an artillery bombardment, for you to lose 8% of your men, in this case, we lost 2 of our Briquet bombers. So we've actually got Bristols. Look at this, guys. This is interesting. So these are actually British fighters, the Bristols. I don't know what the Breguet, I would guess these are French. We lost 2 of them, and that's a huge loss. So they destroyed 2 of our bombers with just a nasty artillery strike. Over here, the weakly attacked, killing quite a few of our irregular squads, but we responded in kind and killed a lot of their cavalry squads here, the saber squads and the mounted rifle squads. I'm almost certain that that was a charge there. They wouldn't lose those guys otherwise, so they charged our lines. They certainly managed to kill some of our men. Unfortunately, some of our guys got slashed by sabers. But we won. That's what's important. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I think we've got a tiny little crash. Now, the good thing here is that we have an autosave. Hold on a second. And I'm a huge save scummer, so usually I save constantly. This time I didn't. So let's jump into our autosave here, and I'll save right away. Again, And it's going to play that Soviet turn again. And this is the good thing about the game. After the end of every single turn, it will autosave. So just in case you forget to save, don't panic. It's going to be there. You're going to be able to retrieve it. Although, you know, just save every now and again. I certainly should have done that. Just trying to think why we've got this border issue in the north, and what the campaign storyline, I should say, is going to be for how that border is eventually open. I know it will eventually be opened because fighting certainly took place in the north of Poland, but I'm guessing that the river is getting in the way. So maybe the enemy is going to be building some pontoon bridges to get across. I'm just not 100% sure on that. And I'll definitely take a look here, guys, at the chat after this turn is over. Wow, some enemy riverboats. Now, I was not familiar with riverboats capable of combat in this time period, so this should be interesting. I'm wondering what sort of weapons they would be outfitted with, whether they would be outfitted with cannons or with machine guns, or both. All right, hitting an HQ unit there. I don't like that one bit. And again, just the rapidity of that bombardment forced us back. Throw this in the other room, guys. So once again, these bombardments essentially doing the same thing. The only difference here being this Soviet attack, where I think we may have come out on top. Let's take a look here. Yeah. Pretty much. That being said, coming out on top against this many men doesn't make a difference. Just look at how many men they're attacking with right now. 200 irregular squads, 140 light rifle squads, 100 medium MG squads. Yeah, guys, these Soviet reinforcements have absolutely arrived without a shadow of a doubt. And facing these guys, I have no idea how we're going to beat them. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that what we have to do now is get as close as we can to those Soviet units and immediately entrench our men and start reinforcing them. Don't see any other way to get out of this. Yep, that's just too bad. Let's get rid of those attack lines there. And I'm going to save just to make sure here. Let's take a look here at the chat. What do you guys think we should do? What would you do in this situation? Let's take a look here. Interesting camouflage caper. So Russia trains were wide tracks, and German and U.S. Train were narrow standard tracks. I didn't even know that, but I would expect that means that they could transport more stuff over a longer distance, probably. Hello, ghostly looks. We are not Grainwald. Very good, very intuitive on your part. So what we're actually playing in this particular stream is we are playing the Soviet-Polish War. Some people consider that a war of Soviet aggression. Some consider it a war of Polish aggression. The fact is, both had major territorial necessities in what would be modern-day Belarus and Eastern Ukraine. So, we're basically fighting over that area. But if you missed the first few parts of the stream, or the first part of this stream, we have been doing extraordinarily well in our attacks. The problem is that now that the Soviets have caught on and realized that we can defeat the Polish uprising, the Polish communists here, pretty easily, they're going to be sending in the regular Soviet army to deal with us, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. Sure enough, look at this. They've already got their riverboats up to our HQ here, and actually I think the best thing to do is get out with our HQ. We need to leave. So let's do whatever we can. Get down here. Remember, he's not going to be able to follow us as long as there's no rivers nearby, so it's not like he can get on the tracks and suddenly his boat works. He has to follow only the river. Probably should be a good warning to us not to be next to the river when we can avoid it. Probability of success is already excellent. We do want to get those HQs, though, pretty close to the men. I'm not sure how many actual squares they need to be from the men to be giving them supplies, but generally I keep them at least one tile away from our regular infantry. And the reason I do that is because that's just what I see the CPU doing. So I'm sort of anticipating that, that's the right thing to do. Or assuming, I should say, that that's the right thing to do. So let's dig in here. And we're going to dig in here as well. I'm actually going to try to move in here. Entire group. So now we've got some trenches here, and hopefully we can hold this against all of these enemy security divisions. I'm even going to move in our guerrilla units. In the meantime, we'll bring in these reinforcements. I don't know if it's going to make a difference. No, it's not. It's definitely not. Cancel that attack. Dig in once again. So we'll create kind of a trench line across these three rail lines. But I do want to wipe out this unit that's behind our lines. That's unacceptable. Now, we don't have any information on the enemy unit we're facing, so we're going into this battle blind. I wouldn't recommend doing this. So there's lots of different ways to find out about the enemy unit. Generally, if you're next to the enemy unit, you're going to be able to at least see what unit type it is. If you have some sort of scout unit, scout plane, etc., then you'll actually see the full details here of the enemy unit. You know what? I think we can still make this happen. We've liberated quite a few towns here. Yes, thank you so much. I should have mentioned that. So what Simone is saying is absolutely correct here, guys. We have just continued to update, thanks to Simone, the coupon system. It's back. You can get your 50% off coupons. You can do all that stuff with your slits. We do have the new social media manager. He's doing a great job. So please do give a nice clap for Simone. And absolutely, your slits have value yet again. Grainwald is saying, I want the next DLC for Order of Battle. Yes, it is something Italian, as a matter of fact. So well, I should say the most recent DLC is Sandstorm, if you haven't picked that one up yet. And it almost focuses entirely on the Italian campaign in North Africa. We've actually put some videos of it up on our channel. And I did the trailer for it, which was fun. Well, I didn't actually do the trailer. I did the voice work for the trailer. Okay, here we go. Ending the turn. Yeah, there's really not much to do here but wait for those borders to open up. And I don't really want them to. Actually, there's one more thing we can do. Flank attack on the enemy HQ. I don't think this is going to go very well, but we've got to take a few risks. Got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, isn't that the saying? Oh, look at this. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize we had so many units we could use here. Oh, this is going to work out very well. And I am going to do an overwhelming attack. We'd be excellent just attacking with these 3 groups, but I'm going to attack with everybody. I want to try and take out as many of the units as possible. Really, you know, destroying this enemy home army would be good. I think this is their Polish home army, or their Soviet Polish home army. And if we could destroy this, then we just have to deal with the Red Army. It's not to say that that's any easier, but dealing with both is obviously going to be a lot more complicated. One, 2, 3. Chance of success is poor. You can do that, Greenwald. So Greenwald is saying, I want to be an American and invade the boot of Italy. So you can actually do that in the Operational Art of War 4. We actually have a bunch of campaigns that are set in World War II, the game we're playing right now, where you can play as the Americans or the Italians. In the Italian campaign, you can either do 1942 to 43, I believe, or excuse me, 42 to 44, or 43 to 45, which is, of course, just the northern part of Italy, whereas 42 to 44, so 42 to 44 is the southern boot, sort of the tip there. How many slits for war in the Pacific? I'll throw in some... please, no. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Not necessary, nor are we interested. Yeah, absolutely. So Lander mentioned that's why the Germans had trouble keeping supply. They had to change the rails to keep supply going in Russia. Interesting. Okay. So, we'll end the turn here. There's not much else we can do. And we've done pretty well, all things considered. We managed to take back 3 major cities, push at least the Polish communists back. Of course, when their Russian overlords, I mean friends, show up, then they're definitely going to make a big difference here. All right, yep, we're still pushing them back. Beautiful. We have not lost our momentum. Only thing we did wrong there is we should have put 1 unit there. Had we had 1 unit there, the enemy would not be able to escape. Ergo, every single one of them would surrender, and we would have just gotten an entire army. Still, pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. So, this is one of the attacks we did. Not great. Yeah, the attacks are becoming a little less conclusive. Here, however, it was completely damage on them. But they are starting to defend a little bit better than they were defending at the first part of the actual campaign. So over here, we're at least able to take out one of their 76mm guns. My biggest goal is taking out those howitzers. I think without the howitzers, they're basically just cannon fodder. If we can get rid of the artillery, they are just cannon fodder. Yeah, chances of success is excellent against that infantry unit. And I think the same is probably going to be true against this engineer unit right here. But I'd rather attack the HQ, although we've already attacked this turn, so the chances of us being able to continue attacking are pretty low. Unfortunately, we're going to have to turn it over to our hated enemies, the Soviets. But not before attacking over here. And over here. This is for the defense of the fatherland. We must win. They were not expecting this counterattack, I don't think. I don't think I was expecting us to be able to do this counterattack. And again, I still don't know what sort of division this is. I'm confused by this NATO hex, because usually a NATO hex with just a strike-through is special forces. With an X, that's going to be an infantry unit. This is a little confusing. How are they not able to break through? Oh, I'm seeing why. So the reason they weren't able to break through here is they've actually got quite a large stack. Do we have any open borders yet? No, we don't. However, we do still have artillery in the swamps that I'd like to take out if I can. If not, we'll proceed north. We're actually getting quite close to Humani, so could we take it? Potentially. Could we hold it? That I'm a little less certain about. Okay, we actually got across the river with that attack. That was nice. The problem now is all our attacks are going to be from that river until we get off this hex. So, you know, we didn't really kill many of them, but we made them retreat. And we've got a huge army here, just a huge army. They're now across the river. So the enemy made a major mistake letting these guys across. Now from here, we can do a lot of damage. That being said, since our guys have already attacked this turn, we're basically just going to have to stay here on this side of the river, if I'm not mistaken. And I think in this case, the best thing to do is dig in the entire group, because the enemy's probably going to try and push us back. And since we're on the river hex here, the defenses here are definitely lessened. And if we look at our unit, guys, if you just look on the right upper corner, you can see that our command is at 36%, our strength is at 34%, and our fuel is at 8%, our supply. So we're not in a good situation at all. And this is supposed to be a supply regiment here, so not good. Not good at all. Can't attack every turn and expect the supply to keep coming in. You do have to take some breaks. You know, try to rotate your units out as much as you can. Use other units if you can. Let some units rest. If you keep attacking the way we have been, even though it's been effective, you know, you're going to have to pay for that later. I think a major part of this game is timing. A really big part of the operational art of War 4. Let's take a look here at the jet. Bad luck happens indeed. Indeed, Paul. All right, guys, we are coming towards the end of the stream here. I do want to thank everybody for stopping by. You guys are absolutely awesome. I hope you enjoyed the stream here. This is definitely not a war that I ever thought I would be able to see in a video game. So I'm really glad to be able to play the Polish-Soviet War. I've seen a number of movies on the conflict, and admittedly, the movies I've seen are very biased towards the Polish. I believe one is Battle of Warsaw. Really great film, by the way. The acting's nothing to write home about, but the action sequences in that movie are excellent. And I can finally sort of, you know, recreate that in this game. What I do know for sure is that a lot of these soldiers fighting on the Polish side, towards the end especially, were Polish students. And, you know, they essentially were not necessarily, I'm not sure if they were drafted into the army. I think they were. but a lot of them actually just volunteered to fight. They knew what would happen if the Russians attacked. Even if they were communists, if the Russians took over, then essentially Poland would just be annexed, by the Russians. So they really had no plans, or at least a lot of them didn't. However, as we can see in this conflict, it's much more nuanced than that, because if we look at the South, we've been fighting essentially Polish communist divisions for this entire part of the war here in the South. These are Polish units working for the Soviet Union. So clearly some of the country, specifically sort of the eastern part, wants to join the Soviet Union. And it's almost kind of mirroring today's conflict in Ukraine, where, in this case, there is an eastern portion of the country that wants to join Russia. This sort of a continuation of this war. And of course, this conflict between the Polish and the Russians has gone on even before the Bolsheviks took power. So this is not the first conflict that they've had. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed that as a choice for conflict. If you guys would like, I'll go ahead and save, and the next time we do the Operational Art of War, we can actually continue this campaign, or the next time we play, we can go ahead and choose a new campaign for you guys to take a look at. Again, I leave it up to you, and again, thank you so much. And give a nice clap to Simone once again, because it's so awesome to have him back. I mean, I think you guys, if you look at the channel now, just take a look, at the Slytherin group contact and the now live button. He has made it look so cool. It looks really, really nice, and I'm quite happy about it. Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate that. Take care, Kandra, and thank you, Lanzer. Ciao, my friends.